Hello, and welcome to Learn Anything, crafting a map to learn new skills. And I'll be your instructor as we explore these strategies for learning and achieving goals, even for skills you've never explored before. Skills is becoming even more valuable as the pace of our society quickens. You could even become a requirement as traditional fields continue to change rapidly and dramatically. Learning new skills takes time and can seem daunting, complex, and even impossible. Because of this, most people don't even try. The fear of failure or the sheer amount of effort involved puts them off of the idea completely. So how can we overcome these challenges and continue to try and learn new skills? Trust me, I've been there before, just like you, and I'm here to tell you that it's possible. Learning new skills is something that can be achieved at any age and any point in your life. I'm a management expert, master's student, and content creator who started many new ventures. Because of this, I often find myself needing to learn new skills. In the past, I found it incredibly difficult and almost given up. But instead, I decided to start seeking my own solution to the problem I was having. So what is the solution I found? It's a simple framework that will help you begin successfully learning any new skill. This strategy is meant to provide a complete look at the entire process of learning a new skill and represent your short and long-term actionable goals. This strategy will help you to understand the trajectory towards your goals, make the steps you need to take to achieve them actionable, and keep you committed to the process of achieving them. First, I want to share a little about me. My name is Philippa Canellis, and I've helped over 30,000 ambitious students unleash their learning abilities and unlock their potential to produce meaningful work in less time. I have a degree in management, and I'm especially interested in productivity and learning. I've read countless books and articles on how we can be more productive and absorb more information, and learned about these topics in depth as a business student. I'm passionate about creating things, learning, and exploring new entrepreneurial opportunities. So I've applied this strategy many times to learn new skills and achieve my goals. I'm excited to share what I've learned to help you do the same thing. In this course, I'll present you with 4 perspectives that you'll be able to use to approach any new skill and inform your learning process. We'll then discuss how to translate those 4 perspectives into actionable steps that you can take to start learning the skill. We'll talk about practical examples for breaking down steps into smaller pieces to make them manageable and achievable. Along the way, I'll also give you practical examples to help you craft a strategy that is unique to you. You can use this strategy to get your dream job, start a business, or embrace a new passion. As I've said, learning a new skill can be an intimidating process, but hopefully, with a little help from this course, you won't need to be frustrated or afraid when learning a new skill ever again. With that said, let's get started. Setting goals and working to achieve them can feel like an overwhelming prospect. Accomplishing your goals requires real, tangible work. Just like anything else, it's a process. Learning a new skill or accomplishing something must be taken one step at a time. But when you're getting started, you may find yourself feeling confused. Online resources, friends, family, and mentors may give you conflicting advice about how to get started. Fortunately, there is a way to identify a roadmap for your goals and the skills you want to acquire. I call this the 4 perspectives. These 4 perspectives refer to the way you look at your goals, and they're meant to inform how you approach them, as well as why you want to accomplish a given goal. In this unit, we'll talk specifically about 2 of these perspectives and their relationship to your goals. We'll be using a strategy here that is based on the balanced scorecard concept. The balanced scorecard was popularized by the Harvard Business Review and has been used by businesses worldwide to translate goals into actionable tasks. Balanced scorecards vary across organizations, but all of them consider the strategic objectives of a business, the metrics used to track performance against those objectives, and the tactics used to affect those metrics. My strategy uses this structure, but its purpose and application are different. These 4 perspectives we'll discuss here are the gain perspective, the show-off perspective, the doing perspective, and the values perspective. I'll cover each of them in this course. By mapping your goals to the 4 perspectives of gain, show-off, doing, and values, you'll be able to look at the entire process of acquiring a new skill. What you'll gain by learning this skill, what to do to demonstrate that you've acquired the skill, what to practice to learn the skill, why you're learning this skill, and how it aligns with your values. Let's start by talking about the gain perspective. When you think about learning a new skill, you probably have something particular in mind that you want to get, accomplish, or improve that requires that specific skill. This point of view that has to do with wanting to get something is what I call the gain perspective. Ask yourself, what am I trying to gain from learning this new skill? Assessing your gain perspective will help you to fill out the first line of your strategy roadmap. You're probably wondering why you should bother to consider the gain perspective. After all, you're the one who set the goal. Surely you know what you stand to gain from it, right? The answer is that being very clear about what you stand to gain from learning a new skill can reveal exactly which first steps you should take and which steps aren't actually requirements, even if they might seem like it at first glance. Let's look at an example. Let's say your goal is to learn to play guitar. If you say that you want to learn to play the guitar and then leave it at that, there are a million possible directions that you could go that would determine what your first step should be. You could want to be a touring musician, playing original music for crowds of music lovers. You could want to join a friend's jazz ensemble. Or you could want to learn guitar so that you can play covers privately with friends. All of these options would mean taking different first steps to achieve your goal. If you want to learn to play guitar so you can achieve your dream of being a rock star, you'll need to learn a lot more than you would if you want to play pop covers. You might want to start with learning about music theory so you can begin to write songs yourself. On the other hand, if you want to learn guitar so that you can play familiar songs with friends, the first major milestone in achieving that goal could be as simple as learning one recognizable piece that you all love. Using the gain perspective in these cases can give you insights into how you should approach your specific goals and set you on the right path toward achieving them without wasting time or effort. Let's go over another example. Let's say that you want to learn to code. Using the gain perspective to get started, you'll start by thinking about why. Maybe you want your website to look more professional. If that's the case, learning to code might mean specifically learning, say, HTML, or website building suites that will help you achieve that goal. From there, you can dig even deeper to further inform your goals and the first step you should take. What will you gain from a more professional website? A likely answer is getting more clients and more revenue for you and your business. If that's the case, it helps you refine your first step even more. You could get started by reading specifically about how to put together a business website and what services and platforms are available for the type of website you want. Using the gain perspective as a starting place helps you pick out what specifically you need to learn to achieve your goal. Maybe you want to get good at negotiation. Once again, the first step is to consider the gain perspective. Think specifically about what you hope to gain from boosting your negotiation skills. Keep in mind that different contexts for negotiation will require different strategies and techniques. Do you want to be promoted at work? Do you want to negotiate with vendors or potential clients? Do you want to buy a car or another major purchase? Make sure you can get specific with your plans, as they'll help you identify which steps you need to take. Let's recap our knowledge of the gain perspective with an exercise. Think about a skill that you feel you'd like to acquire, and then write about why you'd like to learn it. Write about what you can gain from learning this new skill, then go a level deeper. Ask why you'd like to gain that result as well. You'll want to get as specific as possible at this point, so keep asking why until you have a solid and specific thing you'd like to gain. In the next unit, we'll cover the specific steps to get to that ultimate result. I'll see you there. By now, you've probably filled in the gain perspective question and have an idea of what you specifically hope to gain by pursuing your goal. Once that's done, it's time to define exactly what you want to be able to do to show that you've acquired that new skill. Having a skill is essentially useless if you can't prove that you've learned it, and understanding precisely how you can demonstrate that you've acquired a skill is what I call the show-off perspective. The show-off perspective is closely related to the gain perspective, but with a subtle difference. While the gain perspective considered exactly what you wanted to get out of learning a new skill, the show-off perspective is about what tangible thing you want to be able to do once you've learned it. Is it playing your favorite songs on the guitar? Is it writing a novel? Is it creating a Facebook marketing campaign for your business? Is it editing a video from a family trip? Feel free to get specific here. Your gain perspective might be to learn social media content strategy to generate more clients for your business. But your show-off perspective might be publishing content on Facebook that gets over 1,000 views per month. The purpose of the show-off perspective is to give a concrete endpoint and understand exactly what next steps you need to take in order to reach the outcome you've defined in your gain perspective. Remember that specificity helps us cut off tasks that don't serve our goals, creating the simplest path forward for learning a new skill. Here's a personal example from my own life. Years ago, I wanted to learn how to edit videos so I could make a video for an important project. I didn't need to know how to be a professional video editor. I just needed to know how to make cuts, add titles, and add background music. So I narrowed my attention to focus only on what I needed to know how to do. I didn't fuss around with color grading or animations, nothing like that. This was sufficient for my purposes and helped me cut down on doing things that wouldn't help me show off exactly what I needed to show. For another example, let's look again at website building. If your gain perspective is to build an attractive website that will get you more clients, you can narrow down your show-off perspective to include only the things that will help you accomplish that particular goal, such as, I want to make a nice banner, a compelling call to action, 3 featured posts, and a space to feature my products. Learning these skills would help you nail down what you want to accomplish in the end, without wasting time and energy learning to do things like making apps or learn programming skills that you don't need right now. Don't get me wrong, learning the theory, the real nitty-gritty of your field, has a lot of value. I don't want to say it's not important because it is, but there's much more value in learning that theory when you have a solid grasp on the fundamentals and adequate time to study, as well as the ability to work competently at what you're doing. Rather than trying to absorb an entire textbook, try to make real progress towards what you need in the moment to give you momentum and motivation. There will be time to crack open that textbook, build on those core skills, and satisfy your curiosity later. Once you've considered the gain and show-off perspectives and clarified how you want to focus your attention, it's time to take the next step. I call this the doing perspective. The doing perspective looks at the steps you need to take to be able to show off your skills and get what you want. At first glance, this might sound very similar to the show-off perspective. The distinction is that while the show-off perspective is about what you need to be able to do to prove you've learned a new skill, the doing perspective is about breaking down that specific, tangible result into smaller steps. It's important to remember here that there aren't really right or wrong steps. There are only those that are appropriate for you and your goals. Looking through the doing perspective, you'll probably see that you need to take a number of steps before you can show off what you've learned. Scott Young, the author of a book called Ultra Learning, refers to these as sub-skills and argues that rather than using all your attention to focus on various aspects of learning a new skill, it's better to direct your full focus and energy towards one of these sub-skills at a time. Learning this way means that you'll be able to master individual skills related to the larger skill you want to learn, and that you'll have more to show for your hard work. Since the doing perspective details exactly what you need to do to acquire a skill, it requires a little more research than the first two, depending on what you're trying to learn. How can you figure out exactly what you need to learn to make progress towards your goals? Fortunately, no matter what skill you're trying to learn, there are probably a wealth of resources available at your fingertips, made by people who have done the work that you're about to do themselves. You'll want to tap into these resources and not just at a cursory glance. Scott Young calls this practice meta-learning. It's the act of understanding what information and content you need to reach your desired level of mastery. Young says that you should spend 5 to 10% of the time you commit to working on your goals doing this meta-learning. Start by asking yourself, if I want to learn this, what concepts do I need to understand? What facts do I need to memorize? And what procedures do I need to practice? Then use your time to gather this information. This will help you develop your meta-learning map, a map based on the preliminary information you've gathered. Let's go back to your guitar example. Say you want to be able to learn guitar in order to jam with friends, and you want to show off by playing a certain song. If you're thinking of playing a certain song on your guitar, you need to know which chords will be used, as well as strumming techniques for maintaining rhythm. If you want to learn a language in order to communicate with locals while traveling, and you want to show off by ordering at a restaurant, you can break down your goal into smaller practice goals, such as learning the most common verbs and words used in a restaurant. You'll need to do some research here and find which tools you can use. But by developing these strategies, you'll know exactly where to get started on your quest to learn a skill, and you'll learn exactly the things that you need to learn in order to achieve your goal. When you have the doing perspective well defined, you should try to come up with metrics and indicators to help measure your progress. You don't want to obsess over it, but setting these metrics and checkpoints will help to make sure that you're using your time and energy wisely. If you're trying to learn the guitar, you can measure your progress by asking for feedback from a friend who knows the instrument. You can also evaluate your progress on your own. In the case of learning the guitar, this can be done by listening to and self-assessing your technique using resources you find online. Having said that, it's better to get feedback from someone already familiar with the skill. You can even journal about your progress to evaluate your performance and check in with how you're feeling about what you're learning. Now that we've run through 3 of the 4 perspectives, it's time to do a little exercise. Using the work from the gain perspectives you filled out in the last unit and the examples we've covered, start developing a strategy, an action plan around the goal you wrote. I'd like you to really focus on the show-off and doing perspective. What do you need to be able to do to show you've learned the new skill, and how can you start working on it right away? Just brainstorm at this point. In the following units, we'll give some tips for putting this into practice. I'll see you there. There is one final perspective you'll need to consider before setting out on a goal: the values perspective. You might find that this step is a little less labor-intensive than the others, but that doesn't make it any less important. By tying the skill you're learning to something that you value inherently as a part of who you are, you'll be more likely to maintain progress and keep learning even when things are challenging. To grasp the values perspective, you'll want to use your knowledge of your own personal values. Try to identify your values in strong terms, using core values like generosity, curiosity, ambition, learning, or passion as a jumping-off point. What values do you hold that are core parts of who you are? Let's go back to the web design example. If you want to get better at web design, you could be doing it out of your passion for design or organization. You could also be doing it out of love of lifelong learning and your desire to always be improving yourself. You might also be doing it out of a love for your family and a desire to provide for them by increasing the value of your business and website. It could be a combination of all these factors. Remember, there are no right or wrong answers or responses. You know your values better than anyone else. This wraps up our dive into the various perspectives of goal setting. By now, you've probably gotten a pretty good idea of what your strategy should look like. But first, let's go over one last example and see how all of the 4 perspectives relate to each other. Let's revisit the guitar example. Remember, the first step is to take on the gain perspective, meaning you want to begin carving out your strategy by considering what you hope to get out of learning to play. This will most likely be easy to suss out because it will be related to the idea or situation that inspired you to learn the skill in the first place. For the sake of this example, let's say you're passionate about helping people in need and want to learn guitar so you can cheer up sick children by volunteering to play at hospitals. In this case, you can fill out the first step, what you'll gain by learning a new skill right away. I'll gain the ability to help children who are sick or in need. Now you don't just know exactly what the nature of your goal is, you have a much better idea of what specific next steps you want to pursue. Next, you would respond to the next line of your strategy, the show-off perspective. What do you need to do to demonstrate that you've acquired the skill? Again, this will probably be fairly straightforward. If you want to demonstrate that your competence on the guitar is sufficient for your goal of playing familiar songs for sick children, you'll need to learn how to play some familiar songs. For this second part of your strategy, you could write down that you will learn to play 2 specific songs, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay and Strawberry Wine, for instance. This makes for a really easy way to check against your skills. You can simply use the binary metric. Did I learn to play Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay or not? In addition to being simple to track, setting a goal like this spells out plainly what is needed for your specific goal without demanding you use up extra effort to become a guitar virtuoso. Now, let's move on to the third step. What kind of work do you need to do to acquire this skill? Remember, this step corresponds with the doing perspective. This is about the things you need to be able to do to pull off the show-off step. In the case of learning guitar to entertain the underprivileged, the doing step might include learning the chords to the songs you want to play and their strumming patterns, learning to play while singing, or even something as simple as getting your hands on a guitar in the first place. Additionally, you'll want to avoid setting a goal like, I'm going to do the best cover of Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay in recorded history, because that isn't a very concrete goal. As you might imagine, it will also most likely lead to frustration. A better goal would be, I'm going to learn to play the chords for E, A, B7, C, and G, because it is a much simpler, more specific, and more attainable goal. You can easily check your progress toward this goal, and it will help you quickly reach your long-term goal. The final step is to think about how this new skill aligns with your deeply held personal values. You can use your answer from step 1 to inform this. in the case of our guitar example, you could say, "It will help me put smiles on faces and help others because I value spreading joy to those who need it." It can also be helpful at this point to take inventory of your core values and find which ones align with your goal. For example, maybe it's important to you that you're a lifelong learner, or that you're generous and kind and work to make others happy. These are all great values that will push you to accomplish your goals. It might occur to you that the values step won't be useful in helping you make progress towards your goals. While that intuitively makes sense, since the values step doesn't really identify any concrete ways you can make progress, it's not entirely true. The values perspective is positioned as the last step so you can check in with yourself and your values on a routine basis. When you've started to do the work of acquiring a new skill, you can ask yourself if it still feels consistent with your values, or if you're learning and working in a way that honors those values. If not, you can change course to live in closer alignment with your values. As a last exercise, let's think about adding this fourth perspective, the values perspective, to your plan. What core values do you hold dear? How does this new skill relate to those values? If it doesn't seem to connect, is there another skill or path you could take that's in closer alignment to those values? Remember that doing this work will help you stay motivated and take action in the long run. In the next unit, we'll be discussing how you can hold yourself accountable on your quest to reach your goals and quantitatively track your progress. Congratulations on developing your strategy for accomplishing your goals. Now you need to put that strategy into action. In this unit, we'll discuss how to do just that. You probably know quite well that once you've set your goals, they won't just come to fruition overnight. You still have to take at least one step to bring them closer to reality. But what is that step? It's adding actions, tasks, habits, and above all, deadlines into your calendar. Some of us need more accountability than others, but the best way to begin is to write key details down in a calendar and work from there to figure out what you need to make sure that you work on a new skill a little bit every single day. Let's say your goal is to write a novel. If that's the case, you've got about 50,000 words ahead of you. You're going to need to write at least a certain amount every day to be able to finish in your desired amount of time. To guarantee you'll do that, start by dropping that figure into your calendar. If you use 500 words a day to build your novel, it'll take you 100 days of writing 500 words to reach your goal. You can add write 500 words for every weekday for a few months. If another configuration will work to help you reach your goals, go ahead and use that. Just be sure to record it on your calendar. You'll want to set regular goals that are aggressive enough to help you see your goals through, but conservative enough that you won't get burned out. If you don't see yourself being able to write 2,000 words a day, you probably shouldn't use that as a baseline. If your calendar isn't enough to keep you accountable, you can also use a habit tracker like Momentum to make your work into a habit. Remember to block time off in your calendar so nothing can intrude on the time that you have set aside to work on your new skill. Some days you might be able to practice more than the time you allotted yourself, and others less. But even if you just work on your new skill for 10 minutes a day, you're prioritizing your goal and making time for it, which is a vital step in the learning process. So don't panic if you don't consistently meet your goal of, say, writing 500 words a day. As long as you sit down and write for 10 minutes, you've still contributed to achieving your goal that day. According to The First 20 Hours author Josh Kaufman, it takes about 20 hours to reach the basic threshold for learning something new. So you'll want to make sure that your practice eventually tracks toward this 20-hour total. But 10 minutes a day, here and there, can still mean promising progress. Setting a routine is a great start, but if you really want to master a skill instead of just acquiring it, you'll need to deliberate about how you plan your practice. To this end, author Scott Young recommends using practice drills. Once you've started making headway towards learning a skill, you should assess what core activities you're good at and which ones you're weaker at. These are the bottlenecks in your performance. You'll then want to make a point of practicing these pain points in isolation. If you're learning guitar, for example, and you've gotten pretty good at fingering chords, but still struggle with your picking hand, you'll want to design drills to target improved picking and strumming. If you want to build functional strength and your biceps need a little extra attention, practice bicep exercises in isolation. If you want to be a public speaker, you might want to focus on tone and posture. All of this comes down to the value of awareness. Creating a plan can facilitate awareness by showing you what you want and what you have to do to get it. We've already done that using the 4 perspectives. When we are distinctly aware of exactly what we want to do and why, we're more likely to achieve our goals. To maximize that awareness, you'll want to have as much visibility You can easily quantify how much progress you're making towards your goals. You just have to be paying attention. This strategy can be applied to many different parts of your life. Descriptions for work that you're interested in, and take note of the skills that are desired according to the posting. Think about what you can gain from those skills, what the tangible thing is that will show off your progress, what you need to do to achieve that tangible result, and the values that you can connect with that skill. You can use this information to put together a strategy specifically for helping you attain those skills, and you can set deadlines around how soon you'd like to be able to qualify for that job. This is only one of many examples of how this learning strategy can be applied to any part of your life. There are hundreds of ways you can actualize the potential of this goal-setting and learning strategy. Every day offers you new possibilities for enhancing your commitment to learning a new skill, so be on the lookout and try not to pass them up. One last thing I want you to keep in mind is that recovery is fundamental for learning. As attractive as long learning sessions might seem, they will quickly leave you spent and depleted, even if it feels like you're making good use of your time. Make sure to allow adequate time to recover and to manage your energy throughout the day. You can even schedule it into your calendar. This will help avoid burnout, and it also guarantees that you're making the best possible use of your time instead of trying to slog through endless work without success. Remember to rest. Keep an eye on your energy levels and take care of yourself. Let's wrap up with an exercise. Now that you have your strategy put together, it's time to start dropping some things into your calendar. Start calculating deadlines for your show-off and doing perspective. Consider when you would like to learn the specific steps and when you can realistically expect to pull them off. Write deadlines out in a journal next to your goals. From there, you can start adding to your calendar how much regular practice or work this will require each day. From here, you'll have a good idea of how you can start working on your goals, full steam ahead. In the next unit, we'll recap everything that we have covered here so that we can make sure to leave this course confident and ready to create strategies to learn new skills. You've reached the end of this course. Thank you so much for listening. I hope what we have discussed here today will help you to achieve your goals and to learn. In this course, we talked about strategy for setting goals. We talked about the goals of reality. These were the gain perspective, or what you want to get out of learning, the need to do to be able to show you've acquired the skill, the doing perspective, do to show off the skill. And finally, the values perspective, which shows how your goal aligns with your values. We provided examples of each of these perspectives into tangible steps that you can take to start working towards your goals. We also discussed holding yourself accountable by using a calendar, setting dates and deadlines, and taking advantage of opportunities to maximize your practice. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this course. If you're interested in learning more about goal setting, management, and productivity, you can visit my website, www.philippacanellis.com. I also have other courses available on Skillshare under my Canellis. You can also find me on Twitter @PhilippaCanellis. Thank you once again for listening to this course from Script Coach.